Hello, lovely people, movie guru here. Today I am going to explain a science fiction drama film called Finch. Spoilers ahead. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. The film begins with a concise montage of Earth in ruins. A sun-powered flare harmed the ozone layer a decade prior, making temperatures move to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Planet Earth has disintegrated into a generally unwelcoming no-man's land, consumed by UV radiation and defenseless to disastrous climate peculiarities. Finch, one of the couple of survivors, is displayed toward the beginning. He is a mechanical specialist outfitted with a suit that safeguards him from the intensity and the UV beams. Like some other day, he's searching for supplies with his robot Dewey. At the point when he strolls inside a store, that's what his estimations recommend UV radiation levels in the space are very high. In the meantime, the robot picks anything that remains in the store. Finch is then seen taking some canine food. Subsequent to leaving, he denotes the region with the goal that he would be able to monitor the spots that are rummaged. In the following scene, Finch goes through an abandoned town that has been desolated due to the ozone layer's consumption. The UV beams make it incomprehensible for individuals to head outside. Subsequently, most of the city has been cleared. Unexpectedly, Finch's suit produces it as drawing closer to caution that a tempest. He turns the truck around and rams on the gas pedal, while the monster storm pursues him. Fortunately, he figures out how to arrive at his underground lab, which was previously claimed by the firm for which he worked before the calamity hit. Afterward, we get to realize that Finch is kicking the bucket from tuberculosis. His canine-cum buddy, Goodyear, is hanging tight for him at his large house. He embraces and kisses the canine, then, at that point, readies the food he found prior. While Goodyear eats, Finch just tastes on a beverage as the provisions are running out. Afterward, with the assistance of a man-made intelligence, Finch transfers fundamental guidelines on his new undertaking, like how to really focus on a canine, how to do family tasks, etc. Since Finch loves Goodyear more than anything, he is dealing with making an exceptionally specific robot to really focus on him after his passing. Finch has been leading a ton of concentrate on UV beams and radiation openness. Afterward, he eliminates Dewey's eyes and appends them to his new robot. Subsequent to turning on the robot, he begins communicating information to it. After a great deal of bombed endeavors to convey, the robot at long last gestures its head, representing that he is understanding what Finch is attempting to convey. Finch is excited by the response from the robot, also, the way that he's made it above and beyond. He additionally plays with his canine, accepting that he could before long have another companion. Finch then advises the robot to make reference to something about himself. The robot says that he has some rules, like not hurting people, yet all at once the most fundamental decide is that in Finch's non-attendance, he should deal with Goodyear no matter what. All of an unexpected, the power goes out. Finch takes off to fix the breeze turbine. He interfaces the link, after which the lights are re-established. Inside, the robot names himself Jeff. In the interim, a tremendous tempest is seen coming their way. Finch returns and interfaces Jeff to the weather conditions station so he can make a figure. Jeff says that 4 distinct tempests will approach them in the following 24 hours, and they won't be ready to stay away from it. He additionally gauges that it will last approximately 40 days. Hearing this, Finch accepts that they need to leave the spot soon. He moreover assumes San Francisco as their most ideal choice. Finch then, at that point, begins to assemble the robot's full body. In the wake of completing it, Finch increments the robot's exchange rate and starts instructing him how to walk. Following a touch of training, Jeff effectively begins strolling. While Finch is content with the advancement, Goodyear hates the robot and has little to no faith in him by any means. As the storm gets closer, Finch begins pressing all the basics and furthermore turns off Jeff's information move. at just 72%. Along these lines, Jeff isn't completely created and subsequently behaves like a youngster. Finch calls Dewey to go along with them, however fails to remember that he has taken out his eyes. Subsequently, he joins once more, a camera with the goal that he can at long last see. The four then, at that point, jump on the RV and begin making their way to San Francisco. For the present, the gathering has effectively figured out how to avoid the tempest. They then come by an abandoned town. Finch wears the UV security suit and calls Jeff to go along with him outside. He then begins showing Jeff fundamental guidelines on the most proficient method to search and furthermore about the risks of the sun. The team likewise has a great time when they pop some popcorn out in the sun. Finch surges outside with Jeff and orders him to assist him with tying the RV with wires. After Finch gets worn out, Jeff assumes responsibility and effectively. Before long, the huge cyclone hits, and every one of the wires start to snap, one later one more until only one is remaining. Luckily, the tempest dies and everybody is fine. Finch values Jeff's great work, however gets disheartened to discover that the front tire of the vehicle is harmed. They have an extra tire, however try not to have a jack to lift the vehicle. Be that as it may, Jeff basically lifts the vehicle utilizing his sheer strength and advises Finch to change the tire. The following morning, Jeff endeavors to impart with Goodyear, saying that he is attempting to learn the canine language. In any case, Finch awakens and makes him comprehend that it will require some investment for him and Goodyear to be embracing a positive outlook. Soon thereafter, a board brings up that San Francisco is 1,522 miles away. Finch is baffled at the point when Jeff requests him to make sense of the idea from trust. Consequently, he simply shares his own biography. He makes reference to how he alone settled the product issue during a venture, however gave the credit to the entire group. Along these lines, he had the option to win their trust. This time, Finch's well-being continues to break down. Then, at that point, stop at an eatery, where Finch retches blood. Understanding that he doesn't have much time left, Finch takes Goodyear inside the cafe and begins playing with him. In the interim, Jeff is playing with the RV. He puts on melodies while he attempts to drive. On account of his ungainliness, he relinquishes the handbrake, and the RV hits a vehicle. At the point when Finch goes up against Jeff, he acts generally guiltless. He then, at that point, inverts the RV, just to crash it once more. An irate Finch exhibits what befalls his skin when he steps in the daylight. He then shouts at Jeff, letting him know that his as it were work is to deal with Goodyear. After they leave the cafe, Finch chooses to show Jeff driving. At first Jeff is cumbersome, not surprisingly, yet he before long gets a hang of it. What's more, begins driving without a hitch. Finch is satisfied at this, however the doggo still has a few doubts. Around evening time, they come by the street to camp. There, the lovely aurora borealis should be visible as the ozone layer is at this point not present. Jeff recommends that they could drive around evening time. It is risky to specify that light. Notwithstanding, Finch instructs him that hungry individuals approach around evening time and it's risky. In the first part of the day, Finch retches blood and is moreover shuddering. Jeff takes great consideration of him, inquiring assuming he ought to call the specialist. From that point onward, they proceed with their excursion. At the point when Finch awakens, he finds that both the robots are absent. He realizes that inconvenience lies ahead, so in spite of being very powerless, he suits up and embarks to track down Jeff and Dewey. Somebody is watching him from the shadows. Higher up, Jeff is glad to track down food, medication, and even an extravagant coat for himself. In the interim, Dewey finds a few bites, however doesn't see a bear trap close it. As he goes after the tidbits, the bear trap tears him separated. After a troubled Finch finds him, he is sorry and switches off his power. Before long, Finch hears a thundering sound and finds Jeff also. Finch focuses on that they can't remain at the spot anymore as it isn't protected for them. The two of them then, at that point, make a run, yet Finch is scarcely figuring out how to remain on his feet. When they arrive at their RV, they promptly dash away, yet a vehicle begins following them. Subsequent to arriving at a piece far, Finch surrenders the directing to Jeff, telling him not to make any botches from this point forward. He additionally sees the vehicle as yet following them. They switch off the headlights as Jeff can find in obscurity. While the secret vehicle actually seeks after them, Finch recommends Jeff to step on the gas pedal and accelerate. As they are crashing into a tempest, Finch gets to haggle it off the street. He plans to utilize the underpass, all things being equal. Notwithstanding Jeff making an honest effort to make sense of that the level of RV is higher than the underpass, Finch does not tune in, and in the end it crashes and the RV's sun-powered chargers are obliterated. After the accident, Jeff utilizes his solidarity to push the RV inside. The vehicle that was following them draws near. Notwithstanding, it stops briefly, and afterward drives away. In the wake of knowing that the individuals have gone, Finch surges outside and finds that every one of their sun-powered chargers have been harmed. He begins faulting himself for his misguided thinking and furthermore makes reference to that he can't fix it. Jeff guarantees him that he can take them to San Francisco, however Finch lashes out at him to hush up. An enraged Finch then, at that point, gets back to the vehicle while Jeff remains outside in the downpour. After a little sneaking around, Jeff comes inside and lets Finch know that he thinks they'll make it to the brilliant entryway scaffold in San Francisco. In the meantime, Finch shares another story and relates why he has zero faith in individuals and how he found Goodyear in a pack. He makes reference to that Goodyear was unnerved and alone, and how he vowed to safeguard him at any expense. He is on the wheel while a frail Finch rests. Out of nowhere, Jeff sees a butterfly on the windshield. He pulls over, stirs Finch up, and focuses to the butterfly. Finch gets up and extends his hand out, just to track down it unaffected by the daylight. He then, at that point, ventures outside and feels the sun. The UV radiation has diminished to the point where it is as of now not a danger. He sees a blossom and another butterfly and giggles generously. As they proceed with their excursion, they move beyond blooming fields. Afterward, Finch gets dressed and they choose to have an excursion in the sun, something he hasn't done in over a decade. Finch then shares a few additional recollections of his past, while wishing that he could make a greater amount of his life. Hearing this, Jeff energetically gets up and makes sense of that. Assuming they leave now, they will arrive at the brilliant entryway span in around 18 hours. Nonetheless, Finch says that he can't make it. A disheartened Jeff then vows to take care of Goodyear when he's no more. From that point forward, Finch draws out Goodyear's ball and the two participate in a round of get. He then, at that point, hands the ball to Jeff and makes sense of that this is one of the main stages in making in trust with the canine. The two then, at that point, have a concise snapshot of fun when abruptly Finch fires, hacking up blood. His white suit is canvassed in blood now. At the point when Jeff inquires as to whether he can help him, Finch answers he has previously done as such. He then, at that point, shakes Jeff's hand, and they embrace. Here, Jeff is apparently upset, and we can see that he has feelings as well. Jeff then helps Finch into the RV, where he rests. Goodyear consoles Finch while Jeff packs their assets. Finch taps his dearest amigo in the back one more time prior to dying. The two then consume Finch in the fields alongside his UV suit. After they are finished grieving, Jeff go on with the day-to-day everyday practice of Finch and takes care of the canine. Afterward, they play get once more. With Jeff, Goodyear begins to have a real sense of reassurance and starts to change. Jeff additionally feels that Goodyear is currently his obligation, and they set off once more. He becomes a close acquaintance with Goodyear, who at long last hugs him. At the point when they at last show up at the brilliant door span, Jeff develops a dedication for Finch. There, they track down a few messages left by individuals for their friends and family, telling them where they can be found. This presumes that there are more survivors, with the chance of relative being brought together. In the last scene, Jeff Sticks is drawing a Finch, Goodyear, what's more, himself going back and forth. Both of them then leave for elsewhere. The end.